Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon, and by your tips and memberships on Coffee. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. And as always, thank you for all your support, including sharing, chatting, liking, and subscribing. Now roll that famous logo animation. Good evening and welcome back to Computerized Start Live. I'm your host, Justin D. Morgan. We've got Roar in the house, and we got Computer too. So let's see here who we have in the chat. We have Jack68K. Hi, Jack. We have Kevin. Hi, Kevin. We have Sadmac356. Hi, Sadmac. And we have the Game Doc. Yes, we have the Game Doc. All right, we have RetroTech Chris. Hi, Chris. All right. Chris is destroying PS2s and watching, apparently. All right, we got the June tip jar. Link is in the description. I think maybe Jack says I've summoned Hardware Hacker. Yes. Oh, we have Jesse I8386SX. Hi, Jesse. And I know Hardware Hacker is going to be quite disappointed that he missed the following.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for our favorite segment, Wheel of Regrets. Here's your host, Justin D. Morgan.
Hey, who comes up with these titles anyway?
Yes, it could be the finest regrets. So fine of a regret that I forgot to unmute initially. All right, and let's see here. We have a box on the table, and, well, that's a fake out because the actual potential regrets here, the labels, there are labels all over this little thing, and I want to protect my privacy, but we have, in this envelope here, direct from China. So hi to all my eBay sellers in China. I don't think I have any viewers in China. If I do, welcome. But you don't show up in the YouTube stats. So yes, Jesse says decoy regret. All right, and we have in this little package from China that I just dropped on the floor, so hopefully there was nothing else in it. We have a little anti-static foam square wrapped in pro-static plastic. And anyone want to take a guess as to what this might be? Jack's guessing. Is it a VIC-20? No, it is not a VIC-20. It would be the world's smallest VIC-20 if it was. It might be able... Jack says micro edition. Game Doc says Epic Rome? If so, you got scammed. Wrong ISA. I might have gotten scammed, even though it's not an Epic Rome. I'll start to unwrap it. Maybe I might give a little tease. There we go. Little tease. Jack says, it looks like they wrapped the anti-static foam in staticky saran wrap. Yes, it does. Jack's asking, is it a CPU? Yes, it is a CPU. kind of a weird feeling CPU. I think it might actually be a remarked CPU. Jack's asking, is it a 68030? Winner, winner, chicken dinner. And I think it's been remarked for whatever good that would do. All right, let's take a look at it. Yeah, that. All right, well, it is a 68030 RP33B 09 D66C. I don't know. Sadmax says, okay, so it at least claims to be 68K, yes. Jack says, that was a complete guess based on the shape. Yeah, and the reason why I think it might be remarked for whatever good that it would do is because on this one edge of the CPU, it kind of looks like they got paint on the side of it. I mean, Motorola, where's your quality control? I mean, you get paint all over the side of the processor. Nope, that's definitely a China special. They have remarked the CPU. But yeah, they got paint on the side of it. So yeah, I can tell it's been I think there's paint on the bottom of it too. Game Doc says, I was a whopping 1 year old when that CPU dropped. Anyways, I mean, it looks like it's in good shape. So, yeah, Kevin says that's suspicious. But anyways, there we go. Is it actually a 33 megahertz CPU? Or is it, as I suspect, actually a 16 megahertz CPU that's been remarked to 33 megahertz? Well, I may never know because, well, you all are probably wondering what in the world the box is on my bench for. Yeah, I'd have to... yeah, I'd have to look up when the 68030 dropped, because... Fun fact, I used to believe that the 68000 processor was newer than it actually is. Oh, 1987 is when the 68030 was launched. I think I would have been in first grade. And having no idea what a 68030 is. Well, anyways, y'all are probably wondering what this box is. Well, it is not from eBay. But you all may guess what might be in it. Jack says, I was 9 years old. Yeah, I'm trying not to do the actual math of how old I was. But I believe I was in first grade. I think I knew what a computer was because my uncle worked with them, but... I don't think I'd seen one yet. And we have a mini Performer JCM edition. Woohoo! Look at this. so I don't lose my processor, I'm going to go ahead and install it on the board. Look at that beautiful board. So there's the Killy Clip reproduction. There's our 68030 CPU socket. Yeah, it's an upgrade card. So let's go ahead and put our 68030 processor in it so I don't lose it. I believe pin 1 is... That's interesting. On the silk screen... I think the processor goes in that way. Let me check a photo, because the silk screen has all 4 corners of the CPU rounded. I would have bought the CPU and FPU from Joe, but he was out of stock when I ordered them, so I sourced it from the CPU from eBay. And I have FPUs somewhere. There we go. So I am looking at the photo. The photo on Joe's website has the board like this. And sure enough, the processor is... There we go. So this mini performer is for the Macintosh Plus, and it upgrades the Macintosh Plus. Yeah, actually, the funny thing is there's a notch on all 4 corners. Oh, I see it. There we go. There's a box. I see it. There's the box on pin 1. All right, I see it now. When I was looking at it directly over, I saw rounded corners on all 4 pins. But there we go. Now I see it. Now that it's magnified, there is a box around pin 1, so we are good. So this goes on a Macintosh Plus. It snaps right onto the CPU, and it upgrades the Mac Plus's 7.8 megahertz 68,000 processor to a screaming 16 megahertz-ish 68030. I think it actually doubles the stock clock, so it's actually going to be like, I think, what, 15.6 megahertz or something like that? Yeah, Jack says 7.8 megahertz, couldn't even reach 8 megahertz. Actually, the funky clock speed, I think, has to do with the video circuit. I think that's why the clock speed is weird. It's so that the video circuit would be running synchronous with the CPU. Anyways, now, there is one thing I am going to do. I have the oscillator on order because I have FPUs that are spec'd faster than 16 megahertz. I'm actually going to install a oscillator on the board so that my FPU will run faster than the CPU. So I will have a really souped up Macintosh Plus. And the cool thing is, this is actually... Someone reproduced an actual vintage accelerator, and then Joe simplified the design to sell on his website. So the gals are actually running the code that would have been on the original accelerator, and it's laid out to be a smaller, more compact form factor. And yeah, it just snaps onto the processor. You install the extension, or it might be a control panel. The control panel or the extension that enables the accelerator, and then you're good to go. So it'll be just as if I bought an accelerator back in the day, but it's more affordable than actually buying one of those accelerators now. So there we go. Jack says 3546 is making my brain hurt. Yeah. I couldn't tell you why. But anyways, depending on how far we get with computer tonight, I might pull the Mac Plus on the bench Thursday or maybe next week. Socket Wrench. Ah, hi, Socket Wrench, welcome. Socket Wrench is asking, the Toolbox ROM on the Plus is compatible. I would presume so, but one thing the extensions for the accelerators do is they do sometimes patch out code in the Toolbox ROM to make them compatible with the accelerator. I don't remember which extension this accelerator uses right offhand. It uses the Performer init from Micromac. So this is a clone, basically a simplified clone of an original Micromac accelerator. And I have a feeling the extension, one thing it may be doing is patching out Toolbox ROM code to make it compatible. The other thing is usually the way these accelerators work. Jack says Performer, not to be confused with Performa. Yes. Yeah, Soccer Wrench says, oh, right. Classic Mac did a lot of hot patching in the later versions. Yes. So one of the things these accelerators do, you usually have, well, actually, I think you have to leave the original processor in the system because the Apple ROM code is usually very specific about looking for the processor Apple included in the system. I mean, there may be a few exceptions to that rule. Maybe for accelerators that are just use the same processor but are the clock speed increases. Those you might be able to remove the original processor because it effectively has the same processor on it. But usually the accelerator leaves the original processor in the system, and the new processor is, I guess, in bus hold, or however the 68K processors did it. There's actually I think a bus hold pin or something like that, or a halt, or some pin. So the new processor is usually in halt. The original processor starts the boot process, and then when the extension loads, it'll do whatever hot patching it needs to. And then usually it will probably activate the gals that are on it, because usually the accelerator has some gals. And I think it's usually, I suspect it's the gals that take care of the handshake to switch processors. Because I believe, if I remember my 68,000 processors correctly, they were actually designed so that a coprocessor could take over and then return execution. So basically, I think what the accelerator card does is it requests control of the system from the original processor using the mechanism that Motorola baked into the processor, and then it switches control of the system to the accelerated CPU, which then continues the boot process. That's also how those control panels can sometimes let you turn on or off the original processor, sometimes not requiring a reboot. Although sometimes it does. I think it depends on the accelerator. But yeah, it basically hijacks the bus. But hijacks isn't really the right word. It takes control of the bus because the processors had it built in. So, yeah, Soccer Wrench says, oh, that's wild. yeah, so that's how kind of how the accelerators were able to work is because the 68K processors supported coprocessors that could take over the bus. So yeah, that's kind of how they worked. As opposed to like on PCs where if you had I know there's some accelerator cards for PCs. Um, well, they work differently because usually they replace the original CPU. But that's because all x86 processors are backwards compatible. But anyways, yeah, the wild, wonderful world of Apple accelerators, and hopefully, I think I'm going to install this in the Mac Plus that I bought from Mercari that Dave helped me restore the case. So this is the closest thing I can come to a PowerPC upgrade for it. Because as far as I could tell, there were 68030 accelerators was top of the line for a Mac Plus. Yes, the 68040s just weren't. You weren't able to put those on a Mac Plus, or at that point, the Mac Plus was so obsolete. Because the thing is, you're still limited to 4 megabytes of RAM. Because that is, I think, more or less a limit of the system itself. But I think now it is time to get to computer. Although, if anyone's looking, this is not computer. This is my other clone board. Because where we left off of the last live stream, which I guess was the Thursday before last, because last Monday I felt like I was coming down with a sore throat, and I didn't really feel like talking. I think it was just sinuses, because it cleared up. That Tuesday morning I was okay, but I didn't feel like talking for 4 hours, or 4 minutes, just because my sinuses and the kind of the sore throat feeling. And then Thursday there were storms somewhere and north of us, and I don't know if that made the Comcast problem worse, but sometime Thursday late afternoon I get a text message from Comcast of, "We're aware there's a problem with your service and we're working to fix it." So I'm like, oh, they're admitting to a problem with my service at this point. So Jack's asking, does the other clone board have a name? No, it doesn't. I haven't given it a name. Because the thing is, it was missing its ROMs. So I don't know what it originally was. Oh, Socket Wrench says, the storm systems last week had a lot of dramatic pressure changes. Been hearing lots of reports of sinus issues. Oh, that might explain my sinus issues early last week. All right, so the one thing I wanted to do, so this is my dead test card. So we'll set it to the side. So we are trying to continue to troubleshoot, or we're trying to assess what is different between computer and this board. And I think at the end of the stream Thursday before last, we discovered that the 74... Oh, interesting. I think 74S. Oh, that's right. We discovered that the 74. Oh, you can't see it. The 74 LS195, as the silkscreen is marked here. Or I'm pretty sure it's marked LS. 74. Oh, no, it is marked 74S195. Well, we discovered that on this clone board, it actually was a 74LS195, and I swapped the chips, and we started seeing different behavior, but it's still not fixed. So the one thing I wanted to do is I wanted to, and I'm going to have to do this in a way where I can read the labels, is I was going to very quickly look at all the chips that I can read the labels on them and compare them to what the silkscreen says. And I was going to see if any of the chips on this board, because I think the silkscreen legends on computer are the same, I'm going to see if any of the other chips on this clone board differ in type between the silkscreen and the chip. And then I'm going to do the same for computer. I'm going to see if I can find any differences really quick. But I'm going to have to turn these to where I can see the silkscreen. So this is a 74LS00. That is a 74166, and I think that's the correct type. 74LS257. Do I have a little flashlight? I need to get my cell phone. Let me get a 74 LS257. Yep, I'm pretty sure that's right. 74 LS151, 74 LS194, 74 LS 74 LS02, and that's an NE555, which I believe is a replacement. All right, we got a 74 LS 175. Ooh, okay. It's marked 74S175 on the silk screen, but it is a 74 LS175. Computer also has a 74 LS175, so nothing there. We got an NE555, 74 LS194, 74 LS174, 74 LS257. Again, 74 LS174, 74 LS194, 74 LS74, 74 LS08, 74 LS11, 74 LS02, and a 74 LS02. All right. Next row, we got a 74 LS153. There's our 74 S195 on the silk screen that was an LS. Right now I've got the S that was in computer installed in this board. All right, and then we got, I'm going to skip the RAMs because they're 4116 type, but 74 LS04, 74 LS257, 74 LS51, and a 74 LS32. We got a 74 LS20, 74 LS161, and again, and again, and again. All right. 74 LS02. Got a 74 LS153. And again, and again, and a 74 LS283. All right. And then we got a 74 LS139. Then the ROMs. Then we got a 74LS138, and again, and a 74LS259. All right. 74LS08, 74LS138, and then we have 74LS367 times 3, which are the correct substitute for an 8T97. And we got our CPU, 74LS245, 74LS138, an NE558, and a 74LS251. We got a 74LS257, 74LS74, and then a 741 op amp. All right, so it does look like. Oh, Thomas Armstrong says, oh, sorry, I missed the beginning. I see the bright light. Yep, we are looking at I was looking at the chip markings. All right, so the only other chip that differed in markings between what's in the socket and... Oh, wait a minute. Oh, this is a 74S175, and then the 74S86. That's a 74LS86. Ooh. All right, in computer, 74LS175. Oh, and then I cannot read the, okay, I can't read the marking on the next chip. Although, I don't think this chip... Whoop. Well, your guess is as good as mine. All right, let me see if I can get my microscope to stay in position so I can... All right. I can't read that. I'm fairly sure you can't read that. There is a trick. If you've got a chip and you can't read the legend on it, the trick does require isopropyl alcohol, which... I don't see. I don't know what I did with it. All right. Where did I put the isopropyl alcohol? Huh. Howdy, Callan. Welcome. I am looking for my isopropyl alcohol, but I guess since I don't know what I did with it, I will spray some contact cleaner on the Q-tip, and we'll use that instead. All right, so let's see. Wow. That is actually evaporating a little bit too quickly. Let's try to... sometimes making the top of the chip wet. I mean, I think it's a 74 LS. Which would mean it's the same type that's on the clone board, but I can't. I can't read that. All right, so let me see now if there's any chips on computer that appear to be the wrong type compared to the clone, and I will use the silkscreen on the clone instead of computer. Also, if I can't read the chip, I'll skip it for now. So that's a 74-166. That is correct. 74 LS. Yep, that's an LS. That's an LS. That's an LS. Actually, maybe I should use the microscope on some of these. It will be a bit wobbly, but it'll make it easier to read the markings. I think all these should be LSs. 74 LS. LS. Yep, that's an LS. LS. And what was this one here? Yep, that's an LS. All right, so that is an LS. I'm pretty sure that's an LS, even though we can't read it. That's going to be an NE 555. That's an LS. That's an LS. That's an LS. That's an LS. I'm less worried about the wrong type being in a socket at the moment. LS. Because that would probably cause dramatically different behavior. 74 LS. 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 Oh, that was the last one on that row. 74 LS. Oh, that's interesting. That should be a 51. I can hardly read that. I'm wondering if it's just marginal chips, and that's going to be harder to tell. Yeah, Thomas Armstrong says LS and S have different slew rates and current sync. That's an LS. That's an LS. Oh, that's DRAM. LS. All right, that's an LS. I can see the shadow. That's an LS. Let's see, those are DRAMs. All right, if we don't find anything, then I'm just going to start to probably test chips again. LS238. Thomas says the S will give you a faster rise edge and sink more current. LS. LS. I think as I found out, at least on these clone boards, I think most everything should be an LS. 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 All right. LS. Let's see here. 74 LS 138. That is an LS 45. 3 LS. 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 Let's see. That's LS. LS. That's an LS. All right. Okay, so we have the same type of chip. So I am going to don't forget to smash that like button. Jack says, rather than testing chips, why not swap computers chips with the other clone board? You could swap chip number 1, test, swap chip number 2, test, etc., and eventually end up with all chips swapped. Well, hopefully it would just start working at some point. Well, that might be what I end up doing. Okay, let's start by testing chips. Jack says we probably shouldn't assume it's a single chip. All right, let's first retest the chips in the card that are the card that is having trouble. Because I can't swap these chips. I don't have another Saturn board that's working. It seems silly. Have I tried a thermal camera? I mean, I don't know what a thermal camera is going to do because the computer seems to be working and all the chips are going to get warm. I don't know the thermal camera is going to help as much because I don't know what the baseline thermal image should look like. Although theoretically I could use the working board. But I show a cold spot or a hot spot. Well, I mean, I guess we can. All right. Jesse says shows a hot spot would be my guess. Well, actually, my guess is going to be that that the thermal camera is going to be of minimal use. I'm going to predict that we're not going to see anything apparent. And that might possibly be because of how much I have to plug in for this thing to even work. Alright. We'll see. Alright. So I got my thermal camera. Oh, it would help if I plugged in the keyboard now, wouldn't it? Alright. Well, the other problem is I don't know that I've got enough slack to really be able to... Well, maybe I can put the keyboard to the side. The problem is I have to be able to use the keyboard to run the test, and Jax says, can you remind us what the Saturn clone card status was when tested in the other clone board? Yeah, it appeared to be working. Other than an occasional bit error in RAM. Which... there could be a bad RAM chip, but I don't believe... I do not believe that the that explains the problems on computer enough to warrant trying to figure out. All right, so I see the CPU is running warm. The 74LS245 beside the CPU is running rather warm. Yeah, I think the primary problem is with the computer itself. Oh, that's right. Once we replaced that 195, then we were getting... like, massive painful bit errors. So, what do I see that's glowing? Alright, so here's the thermal image on the camera. Those chips right there are the DRAMs. And then you can tell the ROMs are the ROMs because you can almost... it's hard to see on the camera view unless I zoom in. But you can actually see the numbers because the labels on them are reflecting because they're metallic. So there's... so that's the CPU right there. And then that's going to be the 74LS245 beside the CPU. And it's running at like 44 degrees C, but that's not like overly hot. Jesse's asking, now do you have a Jupiter board? That's the real question. No, I don't have a Jupiter board. Alright, so on the Saturn clone card itself, I'm going to have to probably take some pictures because I can't... oh, did that take a picture? wait. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong card. Jesse says, the even more real question is, why did I make such a terrible joke? I cannot answer. All right, so let's see here. I got albums. Oh, here we go. Oh, look at this lovely photo of the side of the power supply. That's not the one I wanted. Oh, that's my hand. Oh, all right. Well, let's see. I might have to actually walk around the bench to get these photos. Or at the very least, I'm going to have to, oh, here we go. I'm going to have to use my iPhone camera as a mirror so that I can see the screen on this camera to know when I've got it pointed at the Saturn card. Okay, I think that's the disk controller. Oh, well, that's a problem. Okay, I'm going to have to unplug the disk controller card. All right, let's see if anything is heating up on the Saturn clone card. The disk controller card was interfering with my ability to take photos of the Saturn clone board. Okay. So there's the Motorola chip on the clone board. It's running at like 45 degrees C, so that's not. And then there's the other chips. I didn't get a very good photo, but nothing's running overly hot. Jack says it would be more interesting to compare the thermal image of computer to the other clone board, but I don't think that will tell us much. All right, so let's do this. I am going to remove all the cards from computer. I don't think this is going to tell us much either after seeing what I did. All right, I'm going to power computer back up. I'm going to let it run for a few minutes, just sitting at idle. And then I'm going to attempt to see if I can find the hottest, the hot spots, which look like the CPU at 47 degrees C. Howdy, Jason of Gut Bomb Industries. Welcome. So these two chips are kind of a little warm. They're like 30 degrees C. You know, that processor's really not 47 degrees C, at least with a gloved hand, is really not hot to the touch. The hottest chip is down on the corner of the board, appears to be the that's interesting. Let me take a photo of that. Oh, but that's still really not that warm. There's like a capacitor or resistor down in the clock circuit that's glowing compared to everything else, but it's only like 44 degrees C, which is not that warm. So that's a red herring. The warmest thing's the processor at 47 degrees C. ROMs 1, 2, and 5 are a bit warmer than the rest, but nothing significant. Yeah, nothing really out of the ordinary. All right, so let's compare. Now, the one thing is, I'm just going to leave the 74LS or the 74S 195 in the clone board. Because I'm not, if it's running really warm compared to everything else, it'll be easy to identify. So, all right, so we'll plug, so that we have like for like. I'll plug video in. I'll plug power in. I'm not going to plug any expansion cards in for this thermal test. And I will plug the speaker in so we can at least hear if it beeps. And I will plug the keyboard in, because I did have that plugged in for the thermal test. And I will... Alright, and I will leave this on for a few minutes. Before I come to any stark conclusions. Alright. Hi, 1-bit. Welcome. I am using a thermal camera to see if there's any hotspot differences between two clone boards. And it's... Interestingly enough, the CPU I was still kind of getting warmer. The CPU is only up to like 41 degrees C right now. And the 74LS245 beside it is also possibly a little cooler. Is it possible that I have... Could it be that I have a bad CPU and a bad buffer chip on computer? Because that is one thing I did not swap at the same time was... Alright, I'll give it another minute or two. I thought I swapped the CPU already, but I can't remember. Because I have a CPU on this foam that I've got beside me here. I do have a 6502 here. But I don't think I swapped... Actually, I thought I did swap the CPU, but what I didn't do was swap the CPU and the buffer chip at the same time. Alright, in preparation for the great chip swap, June 15th. I thought I would find my green paint pen, but I don't see where my green paint pen has gone, so I guess maybe I will use the... I'm not going to swap the ROMs, because I'm fairly sure it's not the ROMs. There we go. Okay, final result. The CPU is a couple degrees C cooler, although that's probably not significant. Alright, let's check. Let's double check before we do this and... Okay, now I do know we have one chip that we've swapped here. But let's really quickly make sure if I run the RAM test on this clone, yeah, white dot's the other clone board, because all these RAM chips were marked with white dots. So that works great until I look. Oh, 012. Interesting. Not RAM. That's weird. Got a not RAM error. Okay, let me do this. So let me put the original 74LS195 back in this board. And I know it's in slot 3. Enter slot numbers to test. 3. Enter. Interesting. Yeah, I'm about to swap it again and see if the error comes back. Because if so, that is totally one of the chips. All right, let me swap that back. So I'm removing the 74LS 195. I am putting the 74S 195 back in. Oops. I just dropped the retro chip tester button on the floor. Well, that's going to be fun to find. Oh. I'm getting the retro chip tester to the 74 195. There we go. All right. Run. Test. 28K. Hi, Jean-Francois Paré. Welcome. All right. So bank 3. Write error. Interesting. Okay, let's test this 74S195. it's probably a good chip, but for whatever reason, it is Jack says, I think this chip totally is part of the problem. I wonder which other chips are related that you should move over to. Let me see here. If I have another 74LS195. Because I would kind of like to have it so that I have both boards working, so that as I swap chips, I can make sure that the problem is actually tracking with the moved chips and not like something else. Let me see if I've got a... I'm looking to see if any of the boards on my bench happen to have a 74LS195 on them that I can borrow, so that I can try to have two working boards. Otherwise, I think what I'm going to have to do is put you all on hold, and let me go look in my chip stash. No, I believe the 2E does not have one. I want to say that got reduced into the MMU on the 2E, but let me check. I don't really want to take a chip from the 2E unless I have to. It is looking like the 74LS195 did get integrated into one of the custom chips, because there is not a 74LS195 on the 2E. Oh, well, but that is where I did find one of my boxes of spare chips. It was underneath the 2E. All right, let's see if there's any 74LS195s in it. Oh, there's a 74LS194, 74LS20, 74LS151, some thermal pads, two chips that is not labeled on the bag, so I'll assume those are not the right ones. 74LS161s again, 153s, 257s, 283s, I want to look at those under a microscope, and those Gen 5 connectors, a large chip of some sort, a Hacko thing to grab the tip out of the iron, a 51s, think those are 4164s. PC cache chips, a servo motor, more thermal pads, heat sinks, a communication cable for a Hako station, a random piece of plastic. Wow, I keep lots of fun things in random boxes. More cache chips. '74 LS 138s. All right, we'll have to see what those are. I can't read the label. Those are cache chips. All right, let's see what these other chips are. If none of these are 195s, then I have one more place to look. All right, these are... '04s. Oh, are all these the same chip by chance? '04, '04, '04. I'm pretty sure they're the same chip. They look like they... Yep, they're in a tube that came from China. I'm pretty sure those are all the same chip. All right, let's see here. These are... $257, $257, $257, $257. All right. Those are not them. I think those are all 74 LSO4s. $32, $32, $32, $32, $32. Okay. That is not the chips I'm looking for. Wait a minute. Of course. The last tube I check in the box. 74 LS 195. Oh yeah, there we go. Those are 195s. These are 195s. All right. I did not... Well, okay, I should probably not say that I did or did not order them. I did just spill a whole tube of them. Luckily, there was only 5 in the tube. I probably ordered them for a computer a long time ago and then promptly forgot, or... All right. So let's see if they even work. That's weird. So I dropped 74 LS 195s. And I found a 74 LS02 on the floor. Oh, please. Well, I try to see if I can find where. Oh, there's the fifth one. There we go. Now I found them, all accounted for. A 74 LS195 is not a great thing to waste because they don't make them anymore. All right. Well, this one does appear to be working. All right, so let's take the... So we're going to take the one out. We'll put it in computer. So we are going to swap that chip. But because I would like to have this one working, let's put this new 74 LS195 in. And Jack says that doesn't exactly seem to be a stress test, does it? No, I wasn't expecting it to be a stress test. It's just a functionality test. This is going to be the stress test. All right. What, 3? And I'm going to let this actually run since this is a unproven chip. I am going to put the 74S195 in the chip tube. I'm not going to throw it away. It probably works, and there may be a computer that might need a 74S195. So I am more right on the tube. 4X LS195 and 1XS195. There we go. All right, well, that is at least... Certainly seems happy. So I have kept my stated goal of doing chip swaps so I can make sure the problem follows the chip. All right, so yeah. And that 74 LS195 is not very warm at all. The RAM chips are much warmer than it, so... Hmm. There is one other possibility, Jack. There is a 74 LS86 on this clone board I'm running on right now, and I cannot read the text on computer, but I believe it's a 74 LS in computer based on a little bit of paint I can see, but I am not. That is not like a slam dunk. I'm also going to see if I can't figure out what the chip does. Actually, let me see if I can find 74 LS 86. Oh, it is part of the RAM circuit. Okay, we should probably try swapping it next. All right, I think this is working fine. Okay, so let's. I'm going to take the 74 something 86 out of computer. I'm going to put it in the retro chip tester. Oh. Well, so it passes the 7486. But there's also an L type. It's marked like that, and I would have to look at the data sheet. Because I don't know if that L is referring to the LS or if there's actually like a 7486L variant. Here we go. I got a... No, I bet that is... I bet that is for the L... Alright, so that's the one I pulled out of computer. It passes the... 7486 test, but it fails the 7486L test. So I'm going to take the one from this clone board. Oh, it also fails the L variant test. Alright. I'll have to look at the manual for the chip tester to see if it... Alright, so I'm going to swap chips. Alright. Let me see if I can... While we wait for the clone to boot, let me go pull up the retro chip tester. So 7486. And it doesn't really elaborate what the difference is. Okay. Alright, we have swapped. Alright. We are in the clone board, not computer. Yeah, I don't think that was a... Alright, I have a feeling computer had a 74 LS86 part installed as I suspected. Hopefully it should fail right away when I find something, yes. Okay. Alright. I am... Alright, I'm gonna go back to computer. Let's make sure computer is still seeing the problem. Because if computer is, then I'm going to swap the two chips here, CPU and a buffer, that are running hotter on computer than on that clone board. Well, let's make sure that 7486 didn't like magically solve the problem. Oh, would help if I plug the speaker in. Yeah, I'm hoping it'll start working when we swap enough chips, and then we'll be able to see that the problem moved over to the other clone board. Except the software actually crashed. All right, I am occasionally seeing that. Where this RAM test program just crashes loading it. I do not know if it's related to computer or just maybe the software's. Oh, it crashed again. Let me power cycle. Yeah, it's like crashing. I know. It it is all that I can do. Okay, I'm gonna move the. I'm gonna move the 74 LS86 back. Yeah, I was having problems loading programs at one point. Yes, and I haven't figured out what was causing it. It's like Yeah, it, like, crashed again. Jack says, I wouldn't necessarily put anything back if it doesn't immediately fix the problem. Well, I am going to immediately put it back if it makes the problem worse, to the point that I can't even run the test. Well, I can't even get the program to run. I've... Yeah, did I... Alright, I'm gonna try this here real quick. I mean, I guess I could put the 74 LS86 back again and swap them, but if I can't get the program to load, then it does make it hard to tell when we fix the problem. I mean, it is always possible that my SD card decided to fail at the worst possible moment. Next says, I think we should assume the program not loading has the same cause. Well, yeah, but there is a method to my madness, or so I think. I would at least like to be able to run the program, though I'm not sure the 74S LS86 I swapped is the problem. Let me make sure that... Alright, the onboard RAM's fine. Alright, I don't know. Let me do what I was initially going to do. I'm up. I'm gonna swap 2 chips. That buffer and the CPU. Although very carefully, because the socket on this phone board is fragile. Alright. After all, what could cause crashing? CPU. Alright. I've got the CPU and that buffer chip swapped. And if that doesn't fix it, I'm going to swap the other 3 buffer chips. I'm at least going to be somewhat nice to myself, and I'm not necessarily going to swap chips one at a time. Because I can always, if I get it down to a group of chips, I can always all right. All right. Yeah, it's loading software. All right. 3. All right. I don't think that fixed the problem. All right. I was going to try these buffer chips. So I'm even moving them to the same positions on the board. Just so that if the behavior changes and I narrow it down to a single chip, I can see what that particular chip is doing. And might be able to better guess what to swap. Anyways, I think these are address lines. I think the first one I swapped was a data bus buffer. All right. Wait a minute. Yeah, it's actually running. One of those three 74 LS 367s. Must be marginal. Okay, so what have I swapped? All right, so we got a 74 LS 195 in. This is the one that was in the second clone board. We swapped the CPU and the 74 LS 245. That didn't fix the problem. And then I swapped the three 74 LS 367s. And that fixed the problem. So I don't think the 195 was causing the main problem, but it was causing a problem. It's probably not the CPU. I'm not going to say it's definitely not the CPU, because that's exactly when the CPU will fail. But it's probably not the problem, considering it's behind these buffer chips. I'm going to actually let this run to make sure it actually runs to completion and we don't get to like one of these banks and then it decides it's having trouble. But in the meantime, while we let this run, I'm going to remove the three buffer chips that I just swapped from this board. I have a feeling that they're probably going to test fine, because I have a feeling the problem is that they're marginal. Yeah, theoretically, the other clone board should not work now. But while this test runs, let's see what the chip tester says about these three chips. I'll swap back if we get anything interesting. So there we go. 74 367. They're 2 or 4-bit buffers. I think in the circuit they're being used as 4-bit buffers. All right, well, that one... Thing is, I don't know where these came from, but the interesting thing is, the 3 that were in computer and the 3 that were in this other clone board all look very similar. All right, I'm wondering... Yeah, these are all 8802 date codes. Oh, and these other 3 are newer date codes. Interesting. Now, the cool thing is, I have an Apple II Plus parts board here. So I've got two 8T97s and one 74LS367 on the parts board. They are functionally equivalent. I'm also going to go look in my parts bag. I don't remember if I had a 367 in it. I will probably have to order more though, but because that part's not ringing a bell. I don't think I did. 283, 257, 51, 161, 151, 20, 194. All right, we'll let this finish. And then if this finishes, we will go to the clone board and we'll make sure that it fails. But while this finishes running, I'm going to go to my I'm going to go to my chip box and see if I have any more 367s. Because I would like my clone board to actually work again, too. So, I'm just going to let this run so you can watch it. If it fails, holler in the chat. Nope, it does not appear as if I have any more 367s. Let's see what the great eBay has. You know, that place where I buy the things I later regret. 74 LS 367. There's a couple places in Texas that have it for cheap plus expensive shipping. There's some place that has it for expensive plus free shipping. Oh, there we go. Intergalactic Semiconductor has it for reasonable price plus reasonable shipping. Maybe that's a good one to watch. For like 10 of them. Yeah, that's a good price. Let's see, that's 10 pieces from... I want to buy 25 of them so I have some spares for future repairs. Oh, look at that. It finished. Yay. Oh yeah, there we go. I could buy the Hitachi ones. They look exactly like the Hitachi chips I had to remove from computer because they were so unreliable. Here we go. This might be the best price. For 25 of them. $14.99 plus $6 shipping. And I've ordered from the seller before. Motorola brand. All right, I'll watch that one. And let's see here. And I'm going to watch Intergalactic Semiconductor because it's like $865 plus $525 shipping. And I've ordered from Intergalactic Semiconductor too. All right, so I'll probably pick up some spare chips. Jack says, I'm guessing this means no zero-page error in that dead test. Yeah, let's double check that, and then we'll go back to the other clone board. Now, the zero-page error seemed to go away when I replaced that 74S195. So I'm actually, if we get a zero-page error here, then I got probably bigger problems. But we'll let this run a time or two. Yeah, I think we resolved it by replacing the 74 S195 with the 74 LS195. Because I stopped seeing it after that chip swap. The zero-page error was on code boot, yes. It kind of tells me that it was a refresh error. And that 74 LS195, I think, is responsible for refreshing DRAM. Which is kind of why I think that with the wrong slew rate, not that I'm an electrical engineer and am pretending to know what slew rate is, although I think that is, I want to say that's how fast the chip can go from like logic low to logic high. But I could see that if the slew rate was wrong, that could cause the memory to be incorrectly refreshed. But again, though, I'm not an electrical engineer, so all right. But I think that solved that. All right. So let's go back to the other clone board. We are predicting, now that we have swapped basically we swapped these 5 chips. Yeah, I'm gonna all right, I do need to put the 367s in this board. Now we do have the 74 LS 195 in this board, so I'm also not expecting 0-page errors. I mean, we could put the 74 S195 in this board and hopefully see that causes problems, but I am adequately satisfied. And I'm not going to bother. I'm satisfied with that explanation. All right, we will run a RAM test on this clone board now that I've swapped. I do want to see, since I did swap CPUs, because I did notice the CPU that was in computer was running hotter than the one that was in this board. So out of curiosity, I'm going to check that temperature after this has had a chance to run for a few minutes. Although I'm only going to run one past the RAM test, and I'll put the cards back in to run the Saturn test. Okay. That's what I expected. All right, so now let's run. Yeah, this clone board's video is. I could probably fix this somewhat if I tweaked with the. There's like a variable capacitor in the video circuit. But really, that color fringing is because Apple II video signal's not really NTSC, and I don't know that adjusting that capacitor is going to do much. All right, so slot 3. This is weird. And it's running. Oh, there we go. Whoa, look at that. That's weird. And it crashed. Huh. Yeah, good idea. Good idea, Jack. Jack says maybe try running it a few more times and see what happens as the chips warm up further. I mean, as much as I don't like trying to type B run RAM test 128K upside down, that is a good idea. Result is still different than computer, but still unstable. Yeah, clearly I should have invested in making a boot disk that boots directly to RAM test 128K. Yeah. So we get. All right, so we get into this test. Okay, it switched banks. But wouldn't that be weird if it's like unstable if the chips are cold? But of course, that wouldn't explain why a computer just really wasn't cooperating. But yeah, it was quite inconsistent in computer. Oh, Jack says put the 74S 195 in it. Lol. That would require me to figure out what I did with it. That would require me to Yes, I know that part. That would require me to. That would still require me to find the find what I did with it. Never underestimate my ability to lose things while live streaming. Because I apparently did not put it back in the box. Oh, there it is. All right, let's put the. All right, I'm gonna put the 74S 195 in. By popular demand. This should cause all sorts of weird problems. Theoretically. Oh yeah, there we go. Yeah, that is exactly what computer was doing before I swapped that chip to an LS type. Yeah, it's just unhappy out of the gate. So at least that tracks. Okay. I did postulate that the zero page issue was happening because of that S chip. So here's dead test. Yeah, I think that confirms. Okay, I think that confirms exactly that the wrong type 195 at B or at C2 will cause zero page errors. I think we just confirmed that. All right, so I'm putting the LS type back in. So if I put dead test back in, okay, that's weird. Did I put it in backwards? No, I don't think I did. That is really weird. I guess Let me double check that my 74 LS195 is still working. Yeah, apparently that wasn't the only problem. Okay. So let me. Yeah, I'm gonna see if I've got this Apple II Plus parts board. It has a set of chips on it. I don't know if they're good, but this is, after all, the Apple II Plus board that Adam had sent me that had the edge connectors shorted. So this may or may not actually be good. Let me run a quick test here. I'm thinking I left them in the board because they were good. All right, well, that one's testing good. I was thinking the short didn't. That one's good. All right, so I'm going to swap all three. And then maybe we'll do a because I remember I'd swapped them one at a time between computer and this other clone board. And at least swapping them one at a time, I didn't find the problem. So I'm thinking that at least two of them are bad, if not all three. So I'll methodically test the possibility that I have two bad ones if these three chips work. Mm, that's weird. Did I? Hmm. All right. So let's try. Nope. All right. That is weird. Okay, so that was one of the chips. Actually, I have to guess at one that might be. Yep. That beep noise means. I may not have. No, there is one other possibility. I'm gonna put those chips back. These are the ones that were in computer. All right, and I am going to. So this is the CPU that was in computer. This is a random spare 6502 that I have. All right. Wow. Kind of like. Okay, so that wasn't it. So I put the 195. Huh. This is like really weird. Did I like bend? No, I didn't bend pins on the 195. All right. It's not in backwards. Huh. Yeah, I don't have any more 74 LS 367s. So All right. So I think for now, I'll just leave this clone board broken. But let's make sure that I haven't managed to make one working clone board turned into 0 working clone boards. All right. I'll order some more 74 LS367s. I'm going to presume that the ones that were in the Apple II Plus are damaged due to what happened to that board. And that the ones that were in computer were obviously bad. All right, so if I put this all back in, plug. All right. So with computer RAM test, or yeah, that test just fires right up. Oh, Jack says at least DigiKey still has 367s in stock. Mauser 2. Excellent. Huh. I was almost for sure that those were not in production, but sure enough, they are. Oh, they're probably still made because they're probably used as line drivers. Yeah, because it's a buffer and line driver, hex bus driver. Yeah. Oh, I bet there's tons of stuff that uses them as bus drivers. All right, so computer dead test, no 0 page issue. And I figure if I fire up this memory test, that it should just run like a champ. It crashed. Do we still have a problem in computer? Or is maybe the software just not? Also possible this RAM test program just isn't reliable software. I'm not going to say my other thought out loud. Yeah, I did theorize that the disk controller card might be problematic. I'm actually thinking that might actually be the case. Of course, that begs the question of which disk controller card on my bench is the good one. All right. Oh, the other clone only has it was just a motherboard that I bought. Okay, that disk controller card is not working. I think this disk controller card might have been in my Apple II Plus. All right, that one's actually booting DOS. Okay, that's actually loading. Yeah, maybe we're gonna have to do a repair stream on the disk controller card that I have. Or more than one, because I seemingly have two that are not cooperating. Yeah, I'm using a floppy EMU, yes. It is possible that is the problem. Yeah, honestly, I guess now that I think about it, I've had better luck on Macs than on Apple IIs with the floppy EMU. All right, so it does look like, though, I've got computers sorted. I at least have the reliable chips in computer. And the Saturn card seems to be working. So I guess the real test. All right, I guess there is one test to do. And this will be the last thing we try tonight. So I am going to move the Saturn card from slot 3 to slot 0. And then I am going to all right, there we go. And now I'm going to power cycle. And there we go. We just booted DOS 3.3 and loaded integer basic into the Saturn card. So now if I want to say that if I type, is it int? Oh, looky here. The LED changed when I went to integer basic. So we are actually using the Saturn card as the language card, like it's supposed to, and it just works. So, not that I like integer basic that much, but I think for integer basic, though, I probably do have to type. Remember, keyboard's upside down. No end error. Was. Yeah, the Saturn card, Saturn. I just ran a integer basic program. Hi, David Lovett. You're probably not watching, but, well, we just ran Hello World on integer basic on an Apple II Plus clone. I mean, it is a far cry from a Bendix G15 or PDP-11 or a spectrophotometer, but, well, it's what I've got on the bench. So, I mean, there we go. Computer is computering. And that's a good place to end the stream before I break something. So, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe and turn on notifications so you know when I go live next. Thursday, I think we're going to look at this. Because I want to know if my 68030 is real or not. But yeah, you know, technically, I think I do. Yeah, Jack says, I don't want to declare computer fixed, but I think this is distinct progress. Yes. So, I think we'll take a little break from computer. Because the thing is, we need to get computer's disk controller working. I suspect there's a bad chip or something on it. Because the weird thing is, this disk controller and this disk controller don't work in computer, seemingly. This one's intermittent. This one just doesn't work. Jack says, congrats on excellent progress. Thank you. So, sometime we'll have to go look at disk controller cards and figure out what's going on here. But for now, yeah. We got computers. I can't complain. So, yeah, there we go. But yeah, I think Thursday I'm going to pull a Mac Plus on the bench. I want to test my 68030 processor that I bought from eBay from China. It's remarked. There's definitely paint on it. I want to test it. to at least make sure it runs at 16 megahertz. Don't have a way to test if it goes to 33, but at least it should go to 16. And that means I'll have to force myself to go find my floating point units. Now, I don't know if that means we'll have the 25 megahertz oscillators in to do that experiment, but that may have to wait for a later date. I do want to make sure my 030 is real while I have a return window. So yeah, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you want to know when I go live next. Don't forget, I do have the June tip jar. That does help me buy chips and potential regrets and other various sundry sorted things, and feed the dinosaur. So let's see here. Yeah, Thursday I think we'll look at the Mac Plus. Trouble with our Saturn card. Don't know what Windows is chiming about. That was weird. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yay! Thank you, Jack. I have a feeling that was... I don't know where that chiming came from. I must have a tab open somewhere. I kind of had a feeling that was a notification coming from something. So thank you, Jack, for some feeding dinosaur / buying chip parts money. I will put that to good use. So yeah, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Thanks for hanging out, being cool in the chat, all that. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I mean, you all know how YouTube works. And, yep, thanks, Jack. And with that, I hope to see you all here Thursday, 9 p.m. Yeah, it was definitely a fun stream. 9, hopefully I'll be able to start at 9. We'll look at the Mac Plus. I can't think of much else. I'm getting tired. I'm rambling. It's time to go to bed because I do have a 9 a.m. meeting in the morning. So, yeah. I think this is a good time to end the stream so I can make sure I make the 9 a.m. meeting. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Take care and God bless. Computerized Start is brought to you by my awesome patrons on Patreon and by your tips and memberships on Ko-fi. These and other channel supporters make my live streams possible. You too can become a channel supporter with tiers starting at just $1. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you've liked what you've seen, subscribe and turn on notifications so that you don't miss the next video or live stream. And as always, thank you for all your support. I hope to see you next time. And until then, take care.